What's a motorway bridge crossing, a burned out building, and a statue with a cone on its head have to do with fantasy world building in TTRPGs. Each of these places in my hometown of Glasgow has a story to tell, where even though the events that created them were in the past, they still have a very real effect on the people in the city today. In my view, world building should never be just stuck in the past. I want things to be created, be destroyed, and rise again in the case of the undead, right before our players' eyes. I reckon, and this is a hill I will die on, every TTRPG world is improved by having a statue with a cone on its head, either literally or figuratively. My name's Rich, and this is Renegade Rolls. In the 1960s, the M8 came charging through the centre of Glasgow, knocking down a ton of old and fascinating buildings. Trying to cross from one side of the motorway to the other is hellish, frankly, as these cars scream along. The River Styx suddenly changed course to flow through the city of Glasgow, cutting it in two. There are some bridge crossings, but they're fraught with danger, and the wraiths from the underworld can kill with a single swipe of their claws. The people built bridges, but every crossing is fraught with risk. A stray, unquiet spirit can take yet another soul. And yet, the people stay. The city wasn't abandoned. Folks lived their lives as best they could, adapting to the unholy incursion. I'm guessing that your world is full of epic events that happened in the past. One terrible way of sharing all that lore is with something I'm affectionately calling the Old Wizard Info Dump. In the times before ours, there were great creatures who shaped the land into many shapes. I mean, it is fun doing that voice, but the thing that makes your world come alive is showing how the great events of the past affect the people today. What effect would having a river of souls running through a city have on its residents? Would people just leave? Or are the reasons to stay stronger than the reasons to go? And what effect would that have on the surrounding areas? When I'm world building for my campaigns, answering these questions is much more interesting to me, and it's a better use of my time than coming up with a timeline of events all the way back to the Big Bang when there were many shapes. It also allows you to play a game which I learned from improv classes called If This Is True, What Else Is True? If we have a river of the dead flowing through a city, you bet there are going to be cults springing up left, right and centre, as well as enterprising folks selling amulets of protection against ghosts. Whether these work or not is entirely up to the GM's discretion. Some little 3-word world building tips for you. Utopia is dull. Balance is dull. Chaos is awesome. It can be really tempting to create a sensibly run world with good-hearted rulers who are doing their best and are loved by the people. If you're looking for a world full of adventure for our heroes, these should be the first places for calamities to hit. It can also be tempting to say that 2 mighty empires are in the grip of a 1,000-year war. Now that sounds super cool and grandiose, but it can lead to things feeling static. This is the risk of overbuilding your worlds. It can be hard to let your players loose in it and wreck everything. If this is you, you might be better off writing a novel where you have complete control. You might not want to break your carefully constructed contraption of a world, but when you do, things get awesome. The chaos, or the churn, for all you fans of The Expanse, is where stories become much more personal for our protagonists. People are tribal. The more settled things are, the bigger the tribes can be. The churn comes, and tribes get small again. If you plan on running a game in a peaceful time and place, to make sure there's drama, the stories you need to tell will have to be more personal. In a place where great events are happening all around the characters, the stories have the opportunity to be grander in scale, and if they can be personal too, then you've got a really potent mix on your hands. This is what remains of the Glasgow School of Art. It was a lovely building until 2014 where it caught fire. And so there's a huge effort to rebuild it. So much work went in, but then it caught fire again in 2018, and yeah, it's looking a bit sad now, I'm afraid. It was designed by the amazing Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and when it caught fire, it's fair to say a lot of people were absolutely gutted, including me. The city is still hurting after the great dragons came. It wasn't the hated halls of students that succumbed to the flame, it was the jewels in the architectural crown of Glasgow. Young, old, rich and poor worked together to help rebuild the place, stone by stone. But it was all for naught as the dragons came again. Now the city sits with ruin at its heart, and the hearts of its people scarred. The story of the art school really sucks, though fortunately no one was killed. I never got round to visiting before the fires, and I'm not sure what's going to happen next with the building. For our fantasy worlds, thinking about what events like this would do to the psyche of a place and the people there can be really interesting. Will folks from this place become cynical? Will they just give up all hope? Can the deeds of our occasionally heroic heroes help restore the confidence of a place, if not the destroyed buildings themselves? Setting a scene in a place scarred by the past can be tricky, as there is a temptation to keep returning to that tumultuous time. There's a piece of writing advice I've heard, but I can't for the life of me find the source. But it goes something like this. If there's something more interesting happening in your world, why aren't you telling that story instead? If anyone knows where that's from, please do let me know in the comments. You win a dinosaur. The quote is a reminder that we can reference past events, but it works best to introduce them through the eyes of the people living with the consequences today, whether that's nostalgia for a past golden age or fear of terrible events returning. Both can leave a strong impression on the outlook of those in the current time and place. The people in your world can also look to the future. Are they excited for the Harvest Festival, for the rains to finally come this year, or for the Rapture, which will deliver them to their gods? The next interesting question becomes, well, what can the player characters do to bring about certain events while averting calamities? This is the Duke of Wellington statue in the centre of Glasgow, and all is right in the world, he's got a cone on his head. Now, you can keep your Christ the Redeemer, you can keep your Statue of Liberty. This is the best one, best statue in the world. The statue was some old war hero. Most people didn't care who, but they had adopted the statue as their own. They brought it warm cloaks in the winter, wide brim hats in the summer. Some folk told it stories. As the years passed, it listened to their tales and grew to know and love the people in return. Now the armies of the Lich King march on the city. The statue begins to stir in defence of its people. Now that you've set up a super cool world full of adventures and possibilities, it's time to let go, Game Masters. Toys are there to be played with, not sitting pristine still in the packaging on the shelf. From the beginning of your first session, the player characters should be changing the world with their actions. It'll probably be in small ways to start with, but the world should react to the heroics and also to the antics of the player characters. There are some wonderfully wise words in the Discworld Quick Start PDF that I absolutely love. Our system is built on two core premises. Number one, the disc has a story it wants to tell, and left alone will spin on much as it always has done. Number two, the players want to change the story to one more of their liking. By the way, if you want to read a master of world building in action, the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett is a treat. The Discworld TTRPG, which recently launched on Kickstarter, looks amazing, and I may have spent slightly more money than I can afford on one of the fancier tiers. Once your group have done something of renown, even if it's just feeding the librarian a banana and not getting your arms ripped off, let stories spread about the player characters. Some can be true, others can be embellishment or outright lies that could cause the group trouble down the road. Have NPCs getting entirely the wrong impression about the party and see what happens next. It's never dull. As a way of showing the scale of your world and a super direct way of giving the party some adventure hooks, I love using newsreaders or town criers to share information about the goings on in the place where the party happened to be, as well as in the wider world. It's probably nice to make most of these stories true, at least in part, as it gives you some locations to prep in advance of the party choosing to visit. Sometimes it's fun as a GM to share rumours about the world which are complete fabrications. These could be superstitions, tall tales, or just things which everyone believes which turn out to be false when our heroes choose to investigate. It turns out that what the players at my tables care about even more than loot and shiny treasure is their party's reputation. So having someone going around sullying their good name is like catnip to them. They immediately drop everything to set things straight. Now, hopefully you're all fired up and inspired to make a world that's dynamic and super engaging for your players. Well, a word of warning to you from a veteran of too many 4 AM world building sessions. Learning how and when to stop world building is as important as knowing how to start. A lush world full of details to explore is great, but only when your players get to see them. Fortunately, I've got you covered there. This video here is all about how to start and, much more importantly, how to stop world building. I'll see you there or at a table near you rolling an improbable succession of ones. Cheers.